The following program may contain language of an adult nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
I just know he's got more gears. How many more gears?
Yeah.
Will he need one gear to beat Shawn Porter? Will he need two? Will he need three? I'm talking about beyond his gears that we've seen so far.
Because obviously he's prepared, that he knows it's going to be an inside fight. He knows Shawn is going to try to get on the inside.
He's got to get there first.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to work in Kell's advantage because Shawn has to get on the inside. If Shawn Porter can't get on the inside, he's going to get his head just boxed off all night.
These are very, in my mind, they're pretty close rounds. And you know, it's the activity of Porter against the nice power shots of Brook.
Was that your toughest fight?
You know, we're a tough fight. I put it up there, yeah. You know, I had to dig in at times. The fact is, you know, every top athlete has to, you know, deal with the situation, and you know, I dealt with business tonight.
A lot of American fans are just getting introduced to you tonight. What do you have to say to them, being the world champion?
You know, you've seen a little bit of me tonight, but there's much more to come. You know, I hope that I excite the fans, and you know, I hope to be back here in the near future.
Thank you.
What's going on, guys? BoxingTalk.com, alltalkradio.net, and welcome to the Dontae's Boxing Nation Show. I am your host, Dontae, and joining me today by way of phone, my man Eagles World, a.k.a. Rap King. They have two of the best boxing channels on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to them. And in the studio with me, my man that actually covered the fight with me out in California, freelance journalist Shawn, who also covers and works with Hit First Boxing. Let's go ahead and get it in. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. Now, first things first, let me go ahead and let you guys know, as always, about the Box Fan Expo. If you are a true boxing fan, you don't want to miss this, okay? September 13th, all the stars are going to be there. Mike Tyson, Shawn Porter, Terry Norris. There's a million people that's going to be there. You know, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little clip of everyone, and more people will be added to that list, okay? We get new people every day. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. We got a lot to cover. We had a real good weekend of boxing this past weekend, but we're going to start with the undercard, okay, guys? So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, I'll go ahead and start with my man in the studio with me. Now, Shawn, like I said, we were covering the fight. Let's go ahead and start with Jorge Linares. He gets a second-round TKO, or KO, I should say, over Ira Terry. What did you think about Linares' performance and the future against possibly Omar Figueroa?
Well, we know Jorge Linares, even though he's not even 30 years old yet, he has been a world champion since around 2007 when he was 21. So when I saw him fight on the undercard of Pacquiao versus Bradley, I believe it was, or it could have been Canelo Angulo, I can't remember right now off the top of my head.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
It's cool.
He went through the motions in getting a decision, and he looked like a guy who had seen his best days, because he's been in wars, you know, the Antonio DeMarco war, a lot of other ones, and like I said, he's been at the championship level since 07. But me and Dontae are watching him ringside, or not ringside, but close enough. And you know, he's telling me, you know, the talk is the winner of this fight, Linares against, I believe it was Ira Terry, is supposed to take on Omar Figueroa should he hold on to his WBC lightweight title that night, which he did. And Linares looked sharp. He looked like vintage Linares. He knocked this guy out in the second, was sharp. I mean, he put him down. I know his caliber of opposition wasn't that great, but the killer instinct was there. And Dontae, I think that I saw Jorge Linares pretty much at his best. What did you think about that?
I thought he looked very good. I mean, we were talking about this a lot at the gym with some of my friends at the gym. It looked like an anchor punch by Muhammad Ali. Like, you know, the Phantom Punch against Sonny Liston. He came down with it. And this is one of the favorite punches that I love, a counter right hand right over the jab. Mm-hmm. You know, I always teach my son that we call it, you know, a side right hand. It was beautiful. I mean, he's textbook with everything that he does. You know, I just wonder if, you know, he can stay focused 12 rounds, because even against DeMarco Antonio, he looked real good against DeMarco, you know, but he started to kind of fade away just a little bit towards the end.
Yes.
And DeMarco caught up with him. Is that the way you seen it, Ego?
I actually didn't get around to seeing that particular fight. I wasn't at home for that particular part.
Okay.
But I will say this: I read some stuff about it, and I seen his last performance before that against Arakawa. And when Jorge Linares is on, he's on. He boxes beautifully. The things he displays, it's stuff you almost can't teach. He's very fluid in it. Hopefully, they make the Omar Figueroa fight, and Omar Figueroa doesn't move up. He's expressed interest in moving up to 140. But hopefully we get to see that type of fight, because from what I've seen in Figueroa, it looks like he has trouble with pure boxers and guys that can provide you movement and things like that. So I'd be anxious to see that at 135. So that's just my personal opinion. But you also have guys like Terrence Crawford at 135, and there's some talent down there. So if not Omar Figueroa, there's other guys that can be made.
Yeah. Now I just want to make sure. AK, is he still? We still got AK on there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Hey, did you get to watch the Linares fight at all, AK? And even if you didn't watch, what do you think about your boy Figueroa versus Linares?
Yeah. I only saw the highlights. I didn't watch the fight live. However, you know, I think that's an interesting fight. However, I think Omar Figueroa stated that he's moving up to 140 pounds, that he's not going to fight at 135 anymore. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to fight Omar Figueroa at 135 at this point. But, yeah, like Ego said, you know, if you match him up against Omar Figueroa, that'd be a hell of a fight. But if Omar Figueroa moves up a weight, we could see him versus Crawford and all them other guys at 135. But I doubt the Omar Figueroa fight will get made due to the fact that Omar Figueroa is moving up in weight.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that news with him moving up possibly?
I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that he would have to fight Jorge Linares next. You know, if he likes the, if you know what I mean, if he doesn't have all the confidence of the world to hold on to his undefeated record. We saw him struggle really badly on the undercard of Thurman and Diaz earlier. But I want to make a point about the fight, whether it happens at 135 or 140. Obviously, we wanted it at 135, so it's for a world title, the WBC. But it's an interesting fight because we know Figueroa is limited, but the guy can punch. And we know, Linares is the more talented fighter, more skillful. But the one thing I would say is the major chink in his armor is his durability. He doesn't sustain punishment that well.
Yeah.
And as we saw with DeMarco, he's literally a guy that could be winning the entire fight and then lose it late, So it would be a great fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
For those reasons.
And I wanted to say something about Omar Figueroa. Omar, he reminds me of a nice car that you rent for the weekend. I mean, it's enjoyable to drive, it's exciting, but we know it doesn't last that long, right? And that's Omar Figueroa. He's exciting, but we know he ain't going to last too long, especially if he steps up in competition and starts to fight intelligent boxers, because we know that he's tailor-made for an intelligent boxer. And like my man Shawn just said, it's a good point. He may realize that Linares, may just be too tough for him to take a challenge like that. But eventually, you run out of places to run. You know what I mean? Eventually, he's going to have to step up and fight against one of these top-notch guys, right? So let's go ahead and move on, guys. I want to talk about Deontay Wilder. He got a TKO over Jason Gavern in the 4th round. Before I give you my assessment, I want to go ahead and hear what you guys have to say. What did you think of his performance, AK?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too impressed. I didn't know the guy who he was fighting, but it went 5 rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
4, yeah.
Like I said, I'm just...
Go ahead, yeah, it's okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, like I said, I wasn't too impressed with Wilder. But at the end of the day, it was just a tune-up for Stavern, and well, it'd be interesting once he fights Stavern, if he doesn't knock Stavern out, well, what's going to happen if Stavern connect with something. But I think I would still pick Wilder against Stavern. I'm not sure at this point, but yeah, I wasn't too impressed.
What did you think about it, Ego? Or did you catch that one?
Yeah, I did see that one. I mean, there was nothing to be thrilled about. It was kind of a stay busy fight. He was in there with a guy that the world has not really even heard of, and he went some rounds. I don't know if that was by design or if the guy was just tough. And it's boxing, so it happens. Sometimes you can't knock out everyone. I've seen Keith Thurman and Jan Zibik. They fought. and he just couldn't get the guy out of there. No matter what he did, he was hitting him he dominated, but he just couldn't get his opponent out of there. So, I mean, I don't really know. I don't really hold it against Deontay Wilder. I do know it looks like Bermane-Stiverne had that shoulder injury. He called him out. He says he wants the big fight. So I'm anxious to see what he looks like next go around. But I wasn't impressed. He didn't really do anything. He won a stoppage, but it was just his performance was just there for me.
Yeah. Now, Shawn, what about you? Is he one of those rent-a-cars, man, or or what did you think about his performance?
I think we got to go with your term. He's a little bit of a rent-a-car.
I might have to agree. Go ahead, man.
You know, actually, it was a pleasure sitting next to Dontae for that fight because he was breaking down Deontay perfectly. You know, he said basically his entire thing is the big right hand, relies on the power. And speaking to that, I don't know if you've seen it yet, Dontae, but I watched the replay earlier today of that fight. Or not the replay, but he talks on Showtime in between the Dirrell fight and the Figueroa fight.
Yeah, a little interview he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know, I was kind of carrying the guy. I didn't want to get him out of there right away. I wasn't going to get credit. And what's he say? He says, he goes, I could have just knocked him out with the right hand anyway.
Yeah.
The only, you know, and I give him credit for one thing. Bermane-Stiverne doesn't seem all that enthusiastic, all that anxious to get in there with him. You know, I was there in his post-fight conference after fighting Arreola in the rematch, and he was, you know, just happy to have the belt and didn't seem like he was in a rush to defend it anytime soon.
Yeah.
But, you know, Deontay Wilder got to question his mindset when he says things like, all you need is power.
No, yeah. I wouldn't agree with that assessment at all. And, you know, this is the thing. You guys have to understand, on Dante's Boxing Nation, we speak the truth. I like Deontay Wilder, but that's not going to stop me from speaking the truth, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, unfortunately right now, Deontay Wilder, he does look overrated. It's so funny because I actually interviewed him right before the fight, and I was telling him that. I told him, I said, a lot of people think you only have a right hand. What are you going to do when people get past that right hand? And what's so interesting is Wilder-Gavern, he got past that right hand a lot of times in this fight, and we didn't really see a counterattack by Deontay Wilder. All he really does is he backs up and he blocks. I've been saying this for the longest on my videos. He looks very uncomfortable when people back him up. You know, his jab is very inconsistent. I mean, for you to be that long and have long arms and have a height advantage over people like that, and you can't control a fighter with your jab, there's a problem. There's a problem. And like I said, his name is Wilder, and it's funny how that is the funniest coincidence because he is wild. When you get him on the inside, or when an opponent gets on the inside, he is very wild. You know, he is very wide with his punches, and he's going to have problems. But it's still a question mark in the air when it comes to Bermane-Stiverne or going against him, because Bermane-Stiverne, he can be inconsistent sometimes. So it's up in the air. But I say right now, if Stiverne comes forward, I think he probably has a better chin. He may even be stronger, or as strong. He's going to give Deontay Wilder a lot of problems. Okay? Go ahead, Shawn.
And Dontae, I want to add one more thing about Deontay. If he's saying, I wanted to go a couple rounds with this guy, work on some things, then where was it? Where was the jab? Where was the body work? All I really saw was, like you said, the guy, you couldn't get him out of there in 1 or 2 rounds. It took a couple rounds for the big right hand to land, and it did, and it worked. But if he was doing what he said he was doing in the interview, working on things, I didn't see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll see what happens, man. It'll be a good fight when he fights against Bermane-Stiverne. So we'll go ahead and move on, guys. Let's talk about the the wild-ass fiasco between Dirrell and Dirrell-Bika. I mean, he did win a title. You got to give him credit for that. But what did you think about his performance overall, Ego?
All right, so I have mixed feelings about that particular fight. I was really anticipating it, given the first fight. And from the opening bell, Dirrell came out. He said all this stuff pre-hand that he was going to knock out Bika and stuff. And the bell rung, and he came straight at Bika, and he tried to take his head off. So I was like, oh, this is getting good. So, I make sure I was glued to the TV. And then it just turned into Vince McMahon's WrestleMania, and I started getting pissed off, to be honest, as a boxing fan, because I think it was Jack Reese was the ref for that particular one. He was I've seen a lot of ref influence in recent fights. Diego Chavez, and then also with this fight. So Jack Reese, he was making these little quips and jokes and stuff like that, but he wasn't really controlling the action. It was just rough to watch as a boxing fan for the first couple rounds. And I was getting pissed at Dirrell because I predicted Dirrell to win, and I thought he was the superior boxer. And I think he could have had a better showing entirely if he wasn't fighting off of emotions. I think he brought in a lot of, he had a chip on his shoulder, kind of like when Tim Bradley fought a dumb fight against Ruslan Provodnikov. And that's not wise for a fighter to fight with some level of a chip on their shoulder or like emotion. And I think that's what Dirrell was doing. But as the fight wore on, I think Dirrell started to look really sharp in spots, and he started to take his time, get back to boxing, which is his game. I really like the Dirrell brothers. I think they're highly talented. I just want to see him more active. And I think when Dirrell was on, he was on. And as the fight wore on, you got to see that. You got to see how sharp the Dirrell brothers can be. In this case, it was Anthony Dirrell. The first half of it was just kind of rough to watch because I had such high hopes for it. And it was just that, like I said, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania.
Yeah, the whole thing was rough to was kind of hard to watch, I thought. What did you think about it, AK?
Yeah, I'm happy for Dirrell, but you know, I feel like he should have boxed more because he could have made it a more entertaining fight for the fans, and also an easier fight for himself. But you know, Bika he's an awkward guy to fight, man. By the end of the day, I feel like he should have boxed more, and he could have won in an easier fashion and in a better fashion too. But yeah, he won the fight. He did what he had to do. But we'll see. I'm very excited to see his brother now because I think his brother is one of the two, and I think he left 50 and he already had a fight. So you know, it'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shawn, who do you blame for all the holding and the clinching, and how did that fight play out to you?
I think that's just Bika. You know, I mean, he even made Calzaghe look kind of bad when they fought. You know, he just always has a way of doing that. I think if you're Anthony Dirrell, you kind of just got to be happy and go with the phrase, you know, Larry Merchant used to say, which is win now, look good next time. You know, I can't think of a guy that's ever actually looked good against Bika.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
So I think you know, he's probably just happy to get the victory, get the WBC title, and I would love to see either one of the Dirrell brothers, Anthony or Andre, as long as they are sharp and they've been active. I would love to see either one of them fight Andre Ward.
Yeah, I would like to see those fights. I know Anthony Dirrell or Andre Dirrell, who just fought last week or something like that, knocked somebody out on ESPN.
Yep.
He's calling out Carl Froch. He said he wants a rematch. That would be a good fight. Like you said, Dirrell versus Ward or anyone else at 168 would be a good fight. And Carl Groves or George Groves. You know, George Groves against Anthony Dirrell or anyone, I think would be a very good fight. So congratulations to Anthony Dirrell. You know, he got past that fight. Styles do make fights, so hopefully we won't see, you know, an octopus against a human being in the next, you know, outing with Anthony Dirrell. Go ahead, Shawn.
Who would have thought, you know, back in, 2009, when Anthony had cancer and couldn't even fight. And Andre was the guy who a lot of people thought beat Carl Froch. Then he beat Arthur Abraham. Who would have thought Anthony was going to be the world champion first?
Trading places, man. Straight trading places. Yeah, it is pretty crazy how, 1 minute Andre Dirrell, he was getting all the light, all the, you know, shine and everything, and then all of a sudden he takes a back step. And then his brother, he comes out, you know, recovers from cancer, and now he's somewhat of the bigger star of the two right now. But they're starting to get to the point where they're both on the same level. Hopefully, I mean, because we still have to see Andre Dirrell step up, right, against a tough opponent, not a tomato can off of ESPN. You know, so all right, guys. With no further ado, let's get into the main event. The main event, and since this man right here, he actually predicted that Kell Brook would win this fight, I'm going to go ahead and let him start this off. So, Ego, you predicted it, you called it. Did this fight play out the way you thought it would? Did Kell Brook look the way you thought he would?
Yeah, I mean, the fight played out almost exactly as I predicted it. I thought Shawn Porter would come out strong, energized, which he did. Shawn Porter, Kell Brook, they both come in good shape. The question to me was, would Kell Brook let his nerves get the best of him? Because I believe he fought in the States one time before this, and it looked like he had a sense of the jitters or butterflies or whatnot, and he didn't look great. So that was one concern with Kell Brook, even though I picked him. And what would his chin hold up like, and what would his stamina be? And I think those questions were addressed in his training camp, as you can see in his performance. But again, I thought Shawn Porter would come out aggressive like he normally does. And Shawn Porter's the type of guy where he likes to stay busy. He's going to keep work. He's a mule. He's that workhorse. And if you don't give him anything to respect, he's going to try to do like he did with Paulie Malignaggi, just plow all over you.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Kell Brook, just being the better boxer, having a size advantage in my opinion. They're both big guys for welterweight, but I think Kell Brook is bigger and he's taller. I thought that would pose problems with Shawn Porter. So as long as he kept a level head, which he was able to do, I seen Kell Brook winning off of boxing, and that's pretty much how it played out. And I said this would be a fight of halves, and in the first half, if Kell Brook could weather that storm with Shawn Porter, then that's where around the 5th round, I believe I called it, that's where you would see the tides change a bit, and that's kind of what happened. And I think Kell Brook had the cleaner work. He landed the more precision shots, and Shawn Porter, he looked okay in the first couple rounds, and then when that game plan wasn't work, I think he kind of bottomed out. He plateaued, and we didn't get to really see variation or adjustment. And I always looked for that. I consider Floyd Mayweather to be a great skilled fighter, and if you watch the Zab Judah fight, Floyd was he had battled adversity and he made those adjustments. So from young champions, that's what I like to see, your ability to make adjustments. What do you do when the going gets tough? You get a cut, you get this, you get that. Your game plan stops working. What are you going to do? And Shawn Porter, ultimately, in my opinion, he didn't show that adjustment. He didn't show that separation like, okay, I'm the champion. I really want to keep my belt. And Kell Brook, I was very surprised just how composed he was during that whole duration. I mean, he's going across the pond, and he looked really calm, cool, calm, and collected. So that's what I like to see from a champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Shawn, what did you think? Like I said, we were watching the fight together. What did you think of the decision, now looking back at it?
Actually, I'm sure everybody on the show knows this. It's a lot different watching a fight live than it is on TV.
Absolutely.
I mean, almost every time I have a different scorecard being there at the fight, and then when I watch it a week later. At the fight, it looked like it was possible that Shawn Porter might have outworked him, because it's harder to see which punches are. Some of the shots where Shawn probably got on the inside and landed partially, they kind of look like they land live. And it makes his work rate look better. But I watched it again, and the right man got the decision. He landed the cleaner punches. Was it Ego who was just explaining?
Yeah, that was Ego.
He was spot on. I mean, the Ego, you just called it perfectly, everything that went down. I want to give some props to the sport for actually giving Brook the decision.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because that brings me right to my next question, which I was going to ask AK. Now, AK, we were talking about this earlier. I want you to go ahead and break down the strange inconsistencies of how the judges scored the fight. Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, it was just funny to me, the fact that the British judge that was judging, he scored a fight a draw, and also I was watching the fight on Sky Sport, and they had Shawn Porter winning by 1 point. So I just felt like that was, kind of interesting that the British judges and the, Sky Sport were, they picked Shawn Porter, and they thought Shawn Porter won the fight. I personally thought Kell Brook pulled it off, but, it was a back-and-forth action. It was definitely not dominated by one fighter, and you could tell this fight is between almost two elite fighters, you know what I'm saying? Kell Brook came with a good-ass game plan, which is nullify Shawn Porter in the inside by holding him and score with your jab and right hand from the outside. And he was very, very accurate with that jab. And he got Shawn Porter attention in round one with that jab. And also with the right hand, he actually hurt Shawn Porter with the right hand in round one. And another thing, too, the question was really, will he be there mentally? Because Kell Brook could have stepped up, a long time ago. It's been 10 years, and he hasn't stepped up And the question was, will he be there mentally? And he was. And what impressed me the most, that the way he stayed calm throughout the whole fight, and he didn't let the pressure get to him. But yeah, I just felt like it was interesting that the fact that the British judge and the Sky Sport had Shawn Porter winning by 1 point.
Yeah,
I just want to add something real quick. I just have something quick to add.
Go ahead.
I watched a video. I was watching a video on Hustle Boss, so shout out to Chris Robinson. He was in the Mayweather gym, and he was interviewing Floyd Sr., so Mayweather Sr., and he was asking him about the fight. Floyd said, I only watched the last 6 rounds. However, he pointed out something interesting. He said Shawn Porter did not throw any straight punches, no straight jabs or straight rights or whatnot, and he was coming in wild and like wide with his punches, and I think that's what played against him. He didn't adapt, and he didn't shoot straight down the middle, which could have perhaps knocked off the rhythm of Kell Brook. And he was throwing kind of wild and winging shots, and I think that is what kind of hindered his performance.
You know, I don't know. I think I'm giving Kell Brook more credit, because it seems to me that Shawn Porter, no matter what he tried, it seemed like Kell Brook had a counter for almost everything. Like if Porter, with him being shorter, with him trying to come in with straight punches, he has to worry about Kell Brook's check hook. You know, and then it seemed to me like almost everything he tried, Kell Brook, he had an answer for. And once again, like I said, I was so impressed with the fact that Shawn Porter is not an easy guy to hit. He's not a guy easy to hit consistently with more than one punch. Normally, if you hit him with a right hand, you probably won't hit him again. But I was real impressed with Kell Brook, because he was hitting him consistently. And it was a moving target, because Shawn Porter, he does a lot of moving. He does a lot of shucking and jiving and feints and stuff like that. And no matter what he did, Kell Brook was able to time him. You know, even when he was using fancy footwork, which I was just watching Porter versus Julio Diaz fight, you know, the day before this fight, and I was seeing him use like fancy foot movement, and you know, it threw Julio Diaz for a loop. You know, it kind of frustrated him, but it didn't work with Kell Brook. Kell Brook is a masterful boxer, man. He's a masterful boxer, and I don't know, man. I don't think there was really anything that Shawn Porter could have really done to win this fight, or at least win it decisively, especially with Kell Brook being smart enough to tie up Shawn Porter in the inside. That was smart. I mean, that was the reason why we got a lot of rabbit punching and stuff like that, because by the time Shawn Porter got to where he wanted to be, he was tied up. So he was going to try to work his way out of the clinch. So, you know, I just feel Kell Brook, he had an answer for every single thing that Shawn Porter did that night, you know. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I always said that it worries me the way Shawn Porter lunges sometimes, and you saw what Kell Brook did with that. He was countering it with a jab or with a check left hook, right hand, and that's something that Shawn Porter has to work on now. But yeah, Kell Brook had, like you said, he had an answer for everything, and in my book, man, he won the fight, and he was the right winner.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You just remind me. I did want to correct that as well, or revise what I said on my video, because, yeah, same thing, just like Shawn said. When we watched the fight, I thought Shawn won. He looked more busier. I went back home and I watched it, and I got to change that. I do believe that Kell Brook, he won the fight. He definitely landed the cleaner shots, and he hurt Shawn Porter a couple times. So, it was a clear win for Kell Brook. Now, let me go ahead and ask you this, Ego. Do you think that Shawn Porter needs to change trainers?
I definitely do. And the reason being, I think in boxing, there's a lot of people who are loyal, and that's good. You know what I mean? I'm not saying to be disloyal or become a snake or anything like that. But sometimes you got the fathers who I feel they take their son as far as they possibly could. I mean, I could throw out a couple names. I think Robert Guerrero, Ruben Guerrero, that partnership. I'm not saying you have to kick your dad out of the complete training camp where you can't have any part of your boxing life, but I think Shawn Porter and guys like Robert Guerrero, their pops has taken them as far as they could go, and they need some expert advice from others. I even think Canelo and Chepo, I think there's other trainers that could show Canelo some things that would help him. So back to Shawn Porter, I feel like his style, he has he has a style. Like, you're going to have certain things. You have to have good boxing ability, a chin, endurance, things like that to beat Shawn Porter. He's not a walk in the park. As you can see, his work rate, he's strong. But when he wasn't able to muscle Kell Brook around, he kind of crashed into a brick wall, in my opinion. And I think Shawn Porter would be suited with like a Barry Hunter, or someone who's going to teach him some more fundamentals. Like, hey, this is what you do. I thought, given he was with a soft touch opponent, Lamont Peterson looked really good against Santana in his last fight. So I think a guy like Barry Hunter, someone who's going to really spend some time and mold his style. Like, don't change Shawn Porter, but implement different things so he knows what to do a bit more, instead of, like Arab said, lunging and coming in wild and sloppy, and it's not working. You know what I mean? You have to resort to a plan B. So I do think he needs a new trainer.
Yeah, and I just want to say this, Eagle. I agree with you on Canelo. I think we all can agree Canelo needs a new trainer. I disagree slightly when it comes to Shawn. I don't really think he needs a new trainer. I don't think he would have, that night at least, I don't think he would have beat Kell Brook with, any trainer, no matter what trainer he had. I think Kenny Porter, he does a good job training him. Just once again, and he was lunging, he was, wild, but that was because Kell was keeping his composure so well. He was doing so good with keeping Shawn Porter at a distance, and like I said, tying him up on the inside, that Shawn, he started to get desperate. He started to get desperate. He was getting so frustrated. I could see the frustration, kick in with Shawn, because he was trying to figure out, how do I reach this guy without him grabbing me, without, getting caught with a good counter. And he was really frustrated, So, I mean, it's not to say no matter what he did, he couldn't win. But it seemed to me Kell Brook, at least that night, had a better game plan than him. Go ahead, Shawn.
You wonder, too, if they underestimated Kell Brook a little bit, because, you just wonder, did they come in as overconfident for the Devin Alexander fight when he had to win a title about a year ago? Because I was there at media day, and I remember before Shawn Porter won the title, his father would be, was talking about his trainer, his father. He would, hey, can give me an interview for my son? I'll tell you anything you want, and this and that. 2 seconds after winning the title, I see him coming in with the Gucci shades on. You know what I mean? Everybody line up for Shawn one by one. Shawn's wasn't getting big-headed, but the father was a little bit, and maybe Kenny needs to realize it's about Shawn, and they should have, he was right there saying what we were talking about earlier. It's been 10 years, and Kell Brook still hasn't taken on a world title fighter, hasn't fought for a world title. They very well could have underestimated Kell a little bit here.
Anything's possible. Anything is possible. Now,
but all credit to Brook. I mean,
yeah.
They actually came in with a good game plan. The Porters rough him up on the inside, just didn't work.
Yeah. Because I think Shawn Porter, he looked just as intense as he did against Paulie Malignaggi, as he did against Devin Alexander.
I agree.
But he was in there with Kell Brook this time. So I mean, hey, we'll see. But I want to make this very clear. Shawn Porter, by no one can basically say that Shawn Porter's overrated. Okay, he's not overrated. I mean, he's still a good fighter. I still put him against any other fighter in the welterweight division, and I would pick him to at least beat the majority of them. So I mean, Shawn Porter is still a beast. Now, AK, I do want to ask you this. I'm noticing, of course, like I said, the double standards with the fans, or you can clarify this is a double standard. Now, before Shawn Porter, challenged Kell Brook, everyone was saying that Floyd Mayweather was afraid of him. This is the guy that Floyd is ducking, and I bet he won't fight Shawn Porter, and so on and so forth. Soon as the Kell Brook fight was signed, then all of a sudden I'm hearing everyone say, Shawn Porter is overrated. Kell Brook is going to beat him, so on and so forth. And then right after the fight, now they're saying, oh, this really clarifies that he's overrated. Do these fans have convenient memory, AK, or is Shawn Porter, in fact, overrated?
Yeah, I mean, I started hearing that, too, that they calling Shawn Porter a bum and this and that after he lost. And it's funny to me because, like, if you're calling Shawn Porter a bum, well, what's that going to make Kell Brook? Because Kell Brook did not walk in the park versus Shawn Porter. It wasn't no type of a performance that Ali had when he fought Sonny Liston. When he he was coming up against all odds, and you know he killed Sonny Liston. But Kell Brook, he kind of struggled a little bit with Shawn Porter's pressure and all that. So if you're gonna say Shawn Porter is a bum, well, what makes Kell Brook then another bum because he couldn't be a bum? I mean, it's crazy. Like, everybody's not going to stay undefeated. Everybody is not a Floyd Mayweather, a Rigondeaux, Andre Ward. You know, in boxing, certain styles will give you certain problems. And that was a style that gives Shawn Porter a lot of problems. And he had a great game plan. And I truly believe if Shawn Porter fight Marquez, I think he will beat Marquez because Marquez doesn't hold. He got a horrible defense. So Shawn Porter will eat him up. And even Amir Khan, I don't think Amir Khan could, you know, all that pressure that Shawn Porter brings to the table, Amir Khan, he just can't deal with all that pressure. And the only guys who really could beat Shawn Porter are the guys who are elite, like, you know, guys
elite
like Mayweather, Keith Thurman, and all them guys. But definitely Shawn Porter ain't overrated. He just got beaten by a better fighter.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ego, what do you think about that? That's what I was just about to say. Marquez said he would fight the winner. Do you really think Marquez would fight Kell Brook?
I mean, hopefully. I mean, he doesn't want the Pacquiao fight. So I think Marquez just needs to work on securing his legacy. He's already a future Hall of Famer. Hopefully we get a fight with Kell Brook. But I think the fans really want Amir Khan or Keith Thurman.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with Marquez. Like I said, that'll be a good test for both fighters. I don't know. I think Marquez, honestly, looking forward to close his legacy with big money fights he feels will generate the most money as he ends his chapter in boxing.
No doubt about it. But if he's looking to generate, you know, the most money, he's not going to get it by fighting Mike Alvarado. You know what I mean? So the whole thing is, if he were to fight for a world title, because Eddie Hearn, he already said they'll go to Mexico, right? So if they're willing to go to Mexico and give Marquez a chance to make history and, you know, be the first Mexican to win, 4 world titles?
4 divisions.
4 divisions.
Yeah. If he, sorry, but Morales has done it, but he won a paper title.
It wasn't a real WBC or IBF. Yeah.
140, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is my whole thing. If Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn, promoter, is willing to go all the way to Mexico and give Marquez that opportunity, that would be a huge fight. You cannot say that wouldn't be a huge fight. But at the same time, I agree with you, Ego. Kell Brook versus Amir Khan, of course that would be huge. They could sell out Wembley, 80,000 seats, easy, right? But and I truly believe Khan would give Kell Brook a better fight than Marquez would. I agree with you, AK, that Marquez, he doesn't clinch, and he doesn't have the best defense. Every time I see him, his nose start bleeding, you know? So the whole thing is, if he gets in there with someone like Shawn Porter or Kell Brook, you know, I think that Marquez would be tailor-made for any technician like that, and most likely get knocked out by both of them. You know, so what you think, Shawn?
I don't know, man. I don't know about that. Not Shawn. I think Juan Manuel was kind of banking on Shawn Porter winning. You know, Juan Manuel fights in the United States. He's not going to go to England. He knows Shawn Porter was starting to build a pretty decent fan base. Mm-hmm. And if he would have got this win, you know, he probably would have been one of the most hot fighters in boxing.
No doubt.
And I got to disagree with you guys a little bit about Porter taking out Marquez. You guys know Marquez loves a guy that comes right at him. If we saw him getting countered by Kell Brook, now I know Marquez doesn't have the reflexes anymore, or probably even the hand speed Kell Brook has, but that guy can still counter.
Yeah,
and
he can counter. But see, and that's why I love we have this panel. You know, it's good to get different perspectives. You know, but see, my whole thing with Marquez is he's a great counterpuncher. Mm-hmm. But he has a rare combination because he's a good counterpuncher, but he has a terrible defense, though. I mean, because if you watch him against brawlers like Juan Diaz, Cat Cetus, you know, those were guys that, you know, were supposed to make Marquez look flawless, you know, but Marquez still had the bloody nose. He was still getting hit consistently. Another thing, too, is Shawn Porter is not just a brawler. He's not that type of typical flat-footed fighter that takes 3 punches to land his 3 or 5, you know. Mm-hmm. He's the type of aggressive fighter who bobs and weaves and ducks. Like I said earlier, he doesn't really get hit, you know, consistently with punches over and over. And we've seen what Tim Bradley did. You know, Tim Bradley, to me, is very similar to Shawn Porter. Short, compact. They're both aggressive, but they can both box when they want to.
I think Bradley is I don't think when Bradley had to get up off the canvas. Well, not off the canvas, but he was hurt against Brook-Porter. I mean, we saw him really move and throw punches. We haven't seen Shawn Porter incorporate that at this level. We
incorporate what?
Moving around the ring, jabbing around, slipping the shot, coming back with a counter.
He did it with Julio Diaz. He did do it with Julio Diaz.
I mean, Julio Diaz
is coming up in weight. I have to agree with Shawn on this. I think Marquez, the tale of the tape for me would be Marquez's age, and if he is equipped after so many wars, able to deal with Shawn Porter's constant pressure.
Yeah, and
tactically, Marquez is, he's never been stopped, so I don't know if Shawn Porter is the man to do that. It would just, to me, it'd be pure boxing and tactician and the counterpuncher. I would probably favor Marquez based off last performances. But then again, the twist to me is the fact that Marquez has not really dominated anybody. He has great wins, but the Pacquiao 4 fight, he knocked him out cold. It was a competitive fight. Caceres was a competitive fight. You know what I mean?
And they weren't supposed to be.
Where he was dominating Mike Alvarado, it was a competitive fight towards the end. He got knocked down and stuff, so it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think Marquez is looking for a big fight. I think he's looking for an easy title fight.
A guaranteed win,
if he was looking for a big fight, he would have fought Pacquiao. That would have been a huge fight for a rematch. And that was for a title fight. Also, he would have fought Shawn Porter. Or he could fight Kell Brook. That's still a huge fight. And, I will have to say, I think I will pick Shawn Porter if he ever fight Marquez all the way, because let's look at how Kell Brook beat Marquez. He was holding. Marquez doesn't hold at all, and I don't think Marquez is as physical. He's not physically as strong as Kell Brook. So Shawn Porter might bully him. And he don't have the best defense. You never see him block. When you catch Marquez, you catch him with a full punch. He's not going to partially block the punch. So I think, like Shawn said, Marquez will counter Shawn Porter every now and then. But at the end of the day, Shawn Porter showed that he has a good chin and he recovers quick, because Kell Brook is a puncher. And he got hurt by Kell Brook and he recovers quick. And also, Shawn Porter, when he lands on Marquez, I don't think Marquez is going to be able to, because I think Shawn Porter will land a lot on Marquez. And I think he end up stopping him.
Hey, Rev, check this out. Well, Pacquiao, who do you think hits harder, Pacquiao at 147 or Shawn Porter? Because they have a similar style. Pacquiao gives you angles. He's relentless. Who do you think hits harder? Because Marquez has already, in some people's mind, beat Pacquiao 3 or 4 times. So, Shawn Porter and Pacquiao at those times was more accurate. And he's faster, in my opinion, both with footwork and hand speed. So who do you think hits harder out of Porter and Pacquiao at 47?
Yeah, you got a great point. I think, in my opinion, they hit by the same, but Pacquiao has way more hand speed, so it makes it more devastating.
And then, and arguably, Marquez beat Pacquiao 3 or 4 times, depending on who you're asking.
Yeah.
And Porter didn't. He seemed reckless to me, like personally. He just seemed wild. Pacquiao, at the very least, has been accurate, and he had these crazy angles. And he's a southpaw. Marquez was able to deal with that stuff. So I don't know. That would it'd be a good fight. I'll put it.
No, it would be a good fight.
I think Manny Pacquiao don't apply as much pressure as Shawn Porter, in my opinion. I think that's what's going to give Marquez a lot of problems. The type of pressure he brings to the table. Like, he's going to put a lot of pressure on Marquez that I think he's going to make it uncomfortable for him. But I see where you're coming from, though.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on. I don't think they really have the same style or even similar styles when it comes to Pacquiao and Shawn Porter, because Pacquiao is not an inside fighter. He's not an inside fighter at all. Shawn Porter is straight inside. He's inside, but at the same time, like I said, from me watching previous fights, I know that he can box as well. But, when it comes to Manny Pacquiao, it's all about the speed and trying to land that left hand. That's his main, goal. So, and once again, when it comes to Marquez, my thing is Marquez has never beat an American-style type fighter. It's never happened before. You know, he has never done it before. But, you know, and I hate, you know, we're talking about this, and it makes me really want to see the fight, you know?
Yeah.
It makes me really want to see the fight.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we're split down the middle on this, but, you know, that makes good conversation.
Stylistically, you know.
Yeah.
So fan-friendly.
Yeah.
That fight, if it could happen. Maybe they should just do it anyway.
Yeah. Maybe they should do it. I mean, yeah.
And one thing I was going to say, too, is we have to psychological, too. I really want to see Shawn Porter's next fight, no matter who he's in with, just to see where his confidence is.
Good
point. He was plowing through Devin Alexander. He hurt him. He set the record straight in the Julio Diaz rematch, and then he ran through Paulie Malignaggi like a wet tissue. So after that loss, you know what I mean, his face was more busted up than Kell Brook. I want to see where his confidence is, honestly, in his next fight. And that could be a big thing, too. Marquez looked good in his last fight, whereas Shawn Porter lost his belt. So it's going to be where his confidence is, too, because boxing's psychological to me.
Well, you never.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
I just
Oh,
want
sorry.
to add also. Yeah. I just want to add also that, you know, when Pacquiao fights, he likes to catch you from a distance. You know, he fights from a distance. He try to catch you with that left hand from a distance. Mm-hmm. And you, like Dontae pointed out, he's not really an inside fighter. If he has you on the ropes, he's going to jump on you. But he's not going to bully you in the inside, kind of like Shawn Porter.
He ain't going to put his head in your chest, yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make with Marquez. Marquez, you know, him not holding in that, and he all the time he want to fight back and counter. Shawn Porter will make it very uncomfortable for him when you got Manny Pacquiao, a guy who's trying to catch you from a distance. That's almost like a tailor-made kind of guy for Marquez, but Pacquiao hand speed and angles and power is what gives Marquez problems.
Okay,
and we got 4 minutes left, guys. Go ahead, Ego.
Real quick. At 147, who is Shawn Porter bullied on the inside that had respectable power? We know Marquez can crack a bit at 147. He hurt Alvarado, who's generally considered tough. Devin Alexander, we don't really consider him. We consider Devin Alexander and Malignaggi both more slick fighters, but not really known for power. So you got to look at that into the equation too. Like, who has Porter ran through? Julio Diaz is a lightweight that moved up. So who is he like, tactician-wise, who is he bullied? He just tried to kill Brook and wasn't successful.
And real quick, I'll let you go, Shawn. But once again, my whole thing is power to me. If you're not landing the power shots, it's not that relevant. You know, I mean, you got to land that power for it to even be relevant. You know, but that's the way I see it, though. But go ahead, Shawn.
Well, outside of Floyd Mayweather, Marquez has landed against everybody and landed well. So you would then again, he didn't land too well against Timothy Bradley as well.
Not at all.
But you know,
or Freddie Norwood. I mean, if you want to go all the way back, but
that's true. That's true, and that speaks to your point about him struggling against American fighters. It does.
Yeah.
But Shawn Porter, you know, like I said, it's his aggression. He doesn't have the textbook, you know, up on the toes, jab, jab, you know, straight right hand American style. And, you know, you would still expect him to get hit. And I think, like Ego said, the guy can still punch. He almost decapitated Pacquiao. Is Shawn Porter going to be able to just walk right through his stuff? Is he gonna think twice once he would feel that right hand down the pipe from Marquez countering him? Is he gonna want to still come in like he likes to, put the pressure on? You could see both sides. You could see Porter's youth and aggression being too much for the old man, or you could see the old man still having enough tricks and enough counters in him to stop the young boy from rushing in, the young lion. So
and obviously, with all these different opinions, that's what makes the fight worth watching. So Juan Marquez, Shawn Porter, if you guys hear us, go ahead and make the fight, all right? Just go ahead and make the fight. We got about 2 minutes left, guys. I wanted to throw this in real quick. There's been a lot of talk lately, or I should say not a lot of talk, because it's been hitting under the rug with Canelo Alvarez's pay-per-view numbers. Now, Dan Rafael from ESPN, he reported that the numbers were actually surprisingly lower than the Angulo numbers, 300,000 pay-per-views. Now, I want to know, man, are you guys let me know, are we being led astray? Are we being bamboozled into believing that Canelo Alvarez is truly a superstar that everyone is dying to pay and pay to watch, Shawn?
Well, maybe they're overrating how big of a star he is a little bit, but it makes some sense that Lara didn't do as good as numbers as Angulo did, because the Mexican fans are the best fans in the sport, and so they're gonna buy when it's two of their own going at it. Who could blame them? It was an entertaining fight. Not a lot of people outside of the hardcore boxing world knew who Erislandy Lara is. About him being a star, just a couple, just in the middle 2000s, when a guy did 300,000 pay-per-views, that was Pacquiao's numbers, that was Barrera's numbers. So it's not
in the beginning, right?
Right. So it's not terrible, but it is what it is. He isn't that proven. So how much can you expect a guy who just turned 24, who hasn't really, he's fought some good guys and beaten some good guys. He's done really well for himself. I think he's the youngest unified junior middleweight champion of all time. But I think if you're promoting Canelo, you should just be happy with the fact that at 24 he can even sell out an arena and be on pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, it's what do you think about that, Ego?
Yeah, I just think Canelo Angulo is a good step just because he was off with a loss, so naturally people want to see how you bounce back from a loss. In addition to that, it's just an easy on the eyes type fight. You could look at Angulo highlights versus Erislandy Lara. I'm a boxing fan, so I like both. But for casual fans, they're going to see Angulo's knockouts and probably be more curious if you're a casual fan. So it's possible, just based off casual fans and boxing fans, be supporting Angulo just because, like I said, it's easy on the eyes versus Erislandy Lara, as Shawn mentioned, was not a household name, and his style is not the same as an Angulo. Just come forward, and they even called it toe-to-toe, you know what I mean, versus honor and pride, whatever the other one was.
Yeah, and let me just say this before, while we're wrapping it up. This is what I'm saying. I don't believe, no matter who you're fighting, you should not do less numbers than you did in your last pay-per-view, especially when you're fighting against a champion. My whole thing is, I don't believe that I don't believe that Canelo Alvarez is going to be this huge pay-per-view star. I know people saying he's only 24, but I believe even at 28, we're not going to see 900,000 pay-per-views. We're not going to see 1 million pay-per-views. I could be wrong, but we will see, guys. So that's pretty much it. I got to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I want to say thank you to all my guests once again. Eagles World, a.k.a. Rap King, and my man in the studio with me, Mr. Shawn from Hit First Boxing. You guys will be seeing a lot of him on the show, okay, guys? We'll see you guys next week. On to the next one.